Welcome to another FAR walkthrough video from Superfast CPA. I'm Logan, and in today's video we're going to be going over FAR Area 1, D, and this is a remembering and understanding topic. Identify the items of Form 10Q, and this would be Part 1, items 1 through 3, and Form 10K, and this would be Part 2, items 7, 7A, and 8, filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. And we're going to be doing that the Superfast CPA way, which is diving straight into questions. If you don't know much about our strategies, that is one of our main focuses, is going straight to the questions to learn what we need to learn for the exams. Instead of watching hours of lectures and reading through the textbook, we dive straight into the questions, among other strategies. So if you want to learn more, make sure you go check out our free 1-hour webinar training on superfastcpa.com. The link will be in the description, so again, make sure you go check that out. Also, just letting you know, in today's video, we're only going over 5 questions, and there will not be a member version of this video. I felt that it was a topic that we were able to cover pretty completely in 5 questions, and there's not too much other practice that's necessary, but normally, these videos are a 5-question video, and then there's a full 10-question video for the members in superfastcpa.com. So if you like this, and you like the other videos, you can get more of it by becoming a Superfast CPA member on superfastcpa.com. With all that said, let's dive straight into the questions. All right, here we are at question 1, and again, we're only going over 5 questions because this is a pretty straightforward and conceptual topic. Really, I think the thing that most people get confused about is what items cover what and what the order is. So that's a lot of what we're going to be covering in this video. So let's go ahead and read question 1. Which of the following accurately describes what Form 10Q Part 1, Item 1, and Form 10K Part 2, Item 8 cover? So that's a hint right there. These 2 items, although they're in different forms, cover pretty much the same thing. If you have an idea, that's great. Pause the video and think about it. But if not, we're just going to go straight to the answer to learn what we need to know. All right, and the answer is A. Both of these items cover financial statements for the period ended, including balance sheets, income statements, and cash flow items, among other things like notes and things like that. And we'll read that here in a second. So essentially, Form 10Q Part 1, Item 1, and Form 10K Part 2, Item 8 both cover the financial statements. However, the Form 10Q includes financial statements that are unaudited and filed for the quarterly period, while the Form 10K provides audited financial statements for the full fiscal year. If you watched the previous video, we talked a little bit about the difference between the 10Q and the 10K. They cover a lot of the same stuff, but the 10K is much more comprehensive. It's for the full year, and a 10Q is just for the quarter that just ended. The 10K version is more comprehensive and subject to stricter auditing standards compared to the 10Q. Item 8 on the 10K compares 2 years of balance sheets and 3 years of all other financial statements like the income statement, the cash flow statement. And Item 1 on the 10Q does a similar thing, but focusing more on comparing the most recent quarter to the previous quarters in the same year, and sometimes, if needed, also compared to the same quarter in the previous year. But overall, what you need to remember is that both of these items, Item 8 in Part 2 of the 10K and Item 1 in Part 1 of the 10Q, cover the financial statements just for their different periods respectively. For the 10Q, it would be for the most recent quarter. For the 10K, it would be for the most recent fiscal year. Let's go to the next question. All right, here we are at question 2. What do Form 10Q Part 1 Item 2 and Form 10K Part 2 Item 7 cover? So again, that's a hint. These 2 items do cover the same thing on each of them, just kind of in their respective way. If you have the idea, if you know these different items, go ahead and choose the answer. But if you don't know, again, we're using these questions to learn what we need to know. So let's go to the answer. All right, here we are, and the answer is B. Both Part 1, Item 2 of the 10Q and Part 2, Item 7 of the 10K cover the management's discussion and analysis of financial condition and results of operations. So let's get into this. Form 10Q Part 1, Item 2 and Form 10K Part 2, Item 7 both address the management's discussion and analysis, or the MD&A, of financial condition and result of operations. The MD&A is a section where management explains the financial statements, analyzes the results, and discusses factors impacting the company's financial condition and future outlook. So they both have this section in their forms, but for the 10Q, it focuses on the quarterly performance and any significant changes from previous periods, like previous quarters. It's meant to provide an update on the company's recent performance and near-term projections, whereas the Form 10K, the MD&A, covers the entire fiscal year, providing a more comprehensive view with deeper analysis on long-term trends, risks, and financial condition over a broader period. The thing that you're going to notice in this video, we're not diving too deep into exactly what each of these covers, because in a more broad sense, you especially need to know, or you need to think about, 10Q is probably going to be a little bit less extensive because it's only covering one quarter, or at least comparing a quarter to a few other quarters, whereas the 10K MD&A is going to cover a lot more. It's going to be talking about more things than the 10Q, and it's going to be looking at a broader view than the 10Q. But overall, they both still have the MD&A discussing very similar things, just one has a shorter time span than the other, the 10Q being shorter than the 10K. So just remember, item 2 of the 10Q part 1 and item 7 of the part 2 of the 10K cover the same thing, which is the MD&A about the financial condition and the results of the operations. Let's go to the next question. All right, here we are at question 3, very similar to the previous 2 questions, but now we're covering the next 2 items, which is what do Form 10Q Part 1 Item 3 and Form 10K Part 2 Item 7A cover. And if you paid attention to the blueprint topic at the beginning, these are the last items that we're going to cover. We're only covering 3 items from the 10K form and 3 items from the 10Q form. And again, just a hint, they both cover the same items, just in slightly different fashions, like different time frames and different broadness or narrowness. But these do cover the same thing. We've already covered the management discussion and analysis and the financial statements. So is it going to be a disclosure about market risk, or is it going to be about unresolved staff comments? You can probably guess which one is more important. Pause the video if you need to, but if not, again, we're just going to dive straight into the answer to learn what we need to know. All right, here we are at the answer. This answer is C, quantitative and qualitative disclosures about market risk. You probably could have guessed that that's the right answer. So again, 10Q Part 1 Item 3 and Form 10K Part 2 Item 7A cover this. They both cover the same thing in a slightly different way. Form 10Q Part 1 Item 3 and Form 10K Part 2 Item 7A both cover quantitative and qualitative disclosures about market risk. This section discusses the company's exposure to market risks, including interest rate risk, foreign exchange risk, commodity price risk, and other financial risks, as well as how the company plans to mitigate these risks. For Form 10Q, the disclosures are more focused on the short-term changes and any new or emerging risks that have arisen since the last reporting period, like the last quarter, or maybe even the quarter in the previous year. It's intended to give investors an updated snapshot of potential risk factors for the current quarter. For Form 10K, the disclosures take a more long-term and comprehensive approach, examining the company's exposure to market risk over the entire fiscal year. The 10K provides a broader analysis of how market risks could impact future financial performance. I'm sure you're seeing a trend here. All of these that we've been talking about cover the same things, just in a little bit different scope. 10Q, much more narrow, only focusing on the most recent quarter typically, whereas the 10K, much more broad, covering the whole fiscal year and comparing to previous fiscal years. But again, these 2 items, Item 3 on Part 1 of the 10Q and Item 7A on Part 2 of the 10K, cover the same thing, and we've seen that with the other questions as well. And don't worry, we are going to do a comprehensive view of this so you can kind of see it all at once at the end of the video. Let's go to the next question though. All right, here we are at question 4. Which of the following correctly lists the items covered in Form 10Q Part 1, Items 1, 2, and 3 in order? So it's all listed right there. Part 1 only has 3 items that you need to know, Item 1, 2, and 3 for the 10Q. What are those items? We just went over them, but it was probably a little bit harder to pay attention because we were comparing it to the 10K. But if you were paying attention, which one of these has the correct order? Think about it, maybe even go back and look at the other previous questions, and when you're ready, come back, we'll look at it together. All right, and the correct answer is A. The correct order is Item 1, 2, 3, and Item 1 is the financial statements, Item 2 is the MD&A of the financial condition and results of operations, and Item 3 is the disclosures about market risk. And again, we're going to go through that right here. This is the correct order for the 10Q Part 1. Item 1, financial statements, which includes the balance sheets, income statements, cash flow, notes, all those things. Item 2, management's discussion and analysis, or MD&A, of the financial condition and the results of operations, which is the narrative analysis by management about the company's financial performance and condition. Again, with the 10Q, they're focusing on the most recent quarter. And then Item 3, disclosures about market risk, which provide qualitative and quantitative information on the company's exposure to market risks, such as interest rates, exchange rates, and other financial risks. I just wanted to have this question here, though, to show you the order. 10Q Part 1, Item 1, 2, 3, goes in the order financial statements, MD&A, market risk. Now let's do that one more time. Item 1, financial statements. Item 2, management discussion and analysis. Item 3, market risk. That's the order of the 10Q that you need to know when it comes to the FAR CPA exam. Let's go to the next question for the 10K. All right, here we are at question 5, and very similar style question to question 4, but this is now about the 10K. Which of the following correctly lists the items covered in Form 10K Part 2, items 7, 7A, and 8 in order? So there is a slightly different order, but it is covering the same things, so you just need to remember, again, what we talked about previously, what items were compared to what. Maybe go back and watch the previous questions if you need to. If not, let's go ahead and look at the answer. All right, here we are at the answer. The answer is A. The order for the 10K Part 2 is the MD&A, the market risks, and the financial statements. So a slightly different order, but I'll show you again how easy it is to remember the order in the end of this video. So let's go over this one more time. Item 7 of Part 2 of the 10K is the MD&A. Item 7A is basically a continuation of Item 7, but it's about market risk. And then Item 8 is about the financial statements. Let's read each of these. Item 7, MD&A, it offers a detailed explanation from management about the company's financial results and performance throughout the fiscal year. So instead of a quarter, it's the year. Item 7A, about the market risk. This provides quantitative and qualitative disclosures about the company's exposure to risks like, again, interest rate fluctuations, foreign exchange risk, and other market risks. You're not going to need to know too much, not going to have to dive too deep into that. Mainly, you need to remember that item 7A is about market risk for the 10K Part 2. And then finally, item 8, this again is the financial statements, which include audited financial statements such as the balance sheets, income statements, cash flow statements for the fiscal year. So one thing I do want to point out here to remember is that with the 10K, these are audited financial statements. So there does need to be an independent auditor's report for the 10K. But the 10Q is typically unaudited because, again, that's just kind of going throughout the year. There's not auditors that are going to put out a report on every quarter of a company. They're just going to wait and do it on the full 10K. And with that, we've gone over basically what you need to know in these questions. Before we end the video, we're going to do one more part of the Superfast CPA process called Pillar Topics. Now, the idea behind Pillar Topics is as you're going through the questions, you will notice and be able to pick out the things that are obviously important, or you'll be able to kind of summarize the most important things based on what you see in the questions. So let's go ahead and look at the pillar topics for this video. All right, here we are at the pillar topics. So let's read through this. And again, like I said, I kind of laid it out in a way that hopefully is easy to remember and maybe write down yourself so you can memorize this. Essentially, you only need to remember a few things here for the FAR exam. First is that the items in the 10Q are the same items covered in the 10K. Again, for these items that we're talking about, I'm not saying that the 10Q is exactly the same as the 10K, but for the items that you need to know for this FAR exam, they're covering the same things, just in a slightly different order. Also, the 10K items will be more detailed and comprehensive because they are covering the whole year instead of just a quarter. For example, item 7 of the part 2 of the 10K includes balance. I just realized that I wrote that down wrong. For example, item 8 of the part 2 of the 10K includes balance sheets for the past 2 fiscal years, 3 fiscal years worth of the other financial statements, and an independent auditor's report, whereas part 1, item 1 of the 10Q isn't going to cover quite so extensively these things. So again, just remember, even though they're covering the similar things, 10Q is not going to be quite as extensive. 10K is going to be much more comprehensive and broad. Now, this is the part that I think a lot of people get confused about, so I wanted to write this out here so that you can just see it, write it down, and memorize how this works. For the 10Q, all you need to know is that it's part 1 of the 10Q. You need to know 1, 2, 3, items 1, 2, and 3. The order is financial statements, MD&A, and market risk. So again, 10Q, part 1, 1 is financial statements, 2 is MD&A, item 3 is market risk. Now, the easiest thing that I wanted to show you here is they're covering the same things, and all you have to do in your brain for the 10K is just move this financial statements to the bottom, and it pushes the other items up, and now it's the same items, just now the financial statements are on the bottom, and it pushed these 2 items up. So as you'll notice, MD&A is now at the top, so part 2 of the 10K, item 7 is the MD&A, item 7A is the market risk, and item 8 is the financial statements. So hopefully this is pretty easy to see here. It's not too difficult to remember, but I think that a lot of people get caught up in this. They'll see a question or a sim saying, in part 1, item 2, what should be covered, or things like that. And all you need to remember is that we're only talking about 10Q part 1, we're only talking about 10K part 2, so part 1, part 2, And then in those, the 10Q is really easy, 1, 2, and 3. In the 10K, it's 7, 7A, and 8. So you only have to remember 7 and 8, and just remember there's something in the middle, which is 7A. And then it's covering basically the same things, just in a very slightly different order. Financial statements, MD&A, market risk, and then the financial statements goes to the bottom for the 10K, and it goes to MD&A, market risk, financial statements. So again, I don't think this topic is extremely difficult as far as what they want you to know for the FAR exam. So I wanted to do a short video to kind of show you the order, to kind of show you that they're covering similar things, just in slightly different scopes, and that it's not too difficult. With that, that is the end of this video. Again, we only went over 5 questions, and typically there is a member version where we go over an additional 5 questions that members can access in the member forum of superfastcpa.com. But this topic I thought was pretty straightforward and didn't need a ton of extra practice. You basically know most of what you need to know just from this short video. But if you like this video, remember that other videos that we have typically have a full member version that you can watch. So make sure you go check out our free 1-hour webinar training on superfastcpa.com to see if you want to become a member. And even if you don't want to become a member, that 1-hour training will be so helpful. We will teach you how to be effective and efficient with your studying so you don't waste any time struggling with the process. You study 2 hours in the morning, you study with the questions as your main learning material, and other strategies. You'll learn those in the webinar. I hope this was helpful. If you liked the video, make sure to like it and leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video.